to the Red Podcast.
On this episode, I'm going to talk with you about how important it is for you to research the people that you're taking advice from, especially when it comes to making important decisions about your business. When you defer to the wisdom of other people and take risks based on their suggestions, it can either bring you to a new level of success or potentially ruin your reputation. Either way, while the allure of a guru can be enticing, you need to be careful. I'm going to be sharing a story about a guy I met who didn't research the person he was taking advice from. Instead of increasing his credibility and stature like he hoped he would, he ended up severely damaging it, possibly for good. I'm not sure if I've ever talked about this publicly, but if you've been listening to Red Podcast, you've heard me mention about being involved with book publishing. For me, this started by accident. I was writing a book for a major publisher, which was going to be released as part of a well-known series. My thought was that being associated with these series would give me credibility and give my career a big boost. This project had a lot of people involved. In fact, it had too many. After a year of changes, delays, and the slow process of getting the book to market, I ended up very frustrated. And that's when I decided to walk away. Because I was already established in my industry and had an audience waiting to buy my book, regardless of who the publisher was, I wanted to strike out on my own. The book was my first. It was a self-release, and it was a success. Since then, I've gone on to release a few titles, all of them on my own, without the help of major publishers. The total copies sold, about 240,000. Because of this success, people often come to me asking for help with book publishing. About a year ago, I got a call from an entrepreneur in Texas. Because what I'm about to tell you is a bit embarrassing, I'm going to call him Greg. Greg was well known in his industry, but he was looking to take things up a notch. He wanted more money, more credibility, and greater recognition. A well-known marketing guru had convinced him that writing a book was the solution to his problem. So he hired me. And my advice? Since he didn't already have a very specific plan of what his book was going to be about, I told him to do the same thing I'd tell anybody in that situation. The first step is to do a brain dump. Write a list of everything you know about the topic. Everything. Once he did that, we'd have a starting point on which to build upon. We'd be able to go through what was good, what would help people, and what people would pay for. This would be the framework that we'd organized, and everything would come from it. The whole thing would be pretty painless. Having been through the writing and publishing process several times, I'd be able to guide him through every step of it. But if he wanted a book that would give him what he wanted, more money, more credibility, and greater recognition, he was going to have to put in the work. It wasn't something that we could crank out in a weekend. And there was only one problem. Although he said he wanted to be a book author, Greg didn't actually want to write a book. The marketing guru told him that this was possible. Just transcribe something you've already done, was his advice. Then make that into a book. I told Greg that this was a mistake. People who buy books don't want to read a transcript of an interview or a seminar. But he resisted my advice, and it was a month before we talked again. My book is done, he told me when he called. It's been on sale for a couple of weeks. But it wasn't a book. It was a transcription of content taken from a phone call that he'd had with a client. There was no narrative, and you had to dig through a lot of noise to get to any real meat. And there wasn't much of that either. Of course, the sales numbers reflected this, as did the reviews that he received. No value, said one. Not a book at all, was another. And the worst, I just threw my money away. If you reach enough people, you're going to get bad reviews. We've talked about that on Red Podcast before. But when you phone something in, literally in this case, you have no defense. There's a lot of quick fix advice going around. It feels good to think that within just a few hours, you can quickly and effortlessly throw together a document, slap a cover on it, and offer it for sale on Amazon. And it feels even better to call yourself an author. In our culture, book authors are right up there with doctors, accountants, and lawyers when it comes to respect in social circles. And they're right on the level of actors, celebrities, and sports figures when it comes to media coverage. But not all books are equal. And while you may fool a few people at a party by claiming you're an author, it's unlikely a quick fix such as a transcription will get you where you want to go as far as more money, more credibility, and greater recognition within your industry. So what happened to Greg? It's been about a year from when I was first contacted about his project. A real book a good book that people would actually want, could have been out by now. In his life, the money he makes, the level of respect that he gets from people, and the impact that he's had within his industry could have forever changed. But instead, he decided to take a few shortcuts and is now further away from these goals than he was when he started. Obviously, that's a big lesson in itself. You can't shortcut success. Shortcuts are always tempting. I'd be willing to bet most entrepreneurs have taken a few and most likely learned hard lessons when those shortcuts led to unexpected failures. I've certainly got a lot of those stories myself, and that's why I'm so adamant about this. There's an old saying that goes, "Those who can't teach." And yes, there are plenty of online gurus who fall into that category. Beyond that, though, there's plenty of bad advice coming from online message boards, Facebook groups, and blogs. It's hard to separate the good info from the bad. So here are 3 ways that will help you do just that. Number 1, look at income sources. Is the person you're listening to making the majority of his income by doing what he's talking about? Or is he getting paid from something else? A day job, affiliate income from recommending products to you, or seminars maybe. Number 2, look at activity. Is the person you're listening to actually doing what it is that you want to learn from him, or is he simply talking about it? And number 3, look at longevity. A comic friend of mine once told me anybody can have a good 3 minutes on stage. It's putting together an entire show that's complicated. And business is the same way. There are a lot of people in the business world, and some, like lottery winners, make a lot of money in a short amount of time without having put in the work. But trends in technology come and go. The real mark of a successful entrepreneur is staying power and how long he's been able to handle the ups and the downs of a constantly changing environment. As an entrepreneur, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are plenty of people who are on the same path but ahead of you. If you can find them, and you should be able to using the 3 qualifications I just mentioned, they're great people to learn from. What if I could help you with that? Getting you instantly connected with great people who are in the trenches of business, just like you are. That sounds good. Listen up. Laurel and I are currently putting together an intimate group of high-level entrepreneurs who are already up and doing well, but want to go really big in the upcoming year. Making more money is part of this, but we're looking for people who want more than that. Specifically, we're looking for people who want to focus on more freedom, the ability to do the work you want in a way that allows you to live the life that you want. We call it Red 3X. It's the inner circle that you've been looking for. You'll not only get support from other people who are in the trenches with you, you'll also get personal, one-on-one help from both me and Laurel. Red 3X isn't for everybody, and space is limited to just 7 people. This isn't a one-size-fits-all group program. It's an intimate group that operates at a very high level. Only the best will be accepted. Does that scare you a bit? Good. I want to stretch you because that's the only way you and your business will grow. To take the next step, fill out the application at redpodcast.com/apply. Answer all the questions. We'll review your application and be in touch for a personal interview if we think you might be a good match. The URL again, redpodcast.com/apply. I look forward to hearing from you.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.